Thank you for joining us, Debbie. Given your knowledge on the California dam system, what's your take on the Oroville spill?
Well, I think that, after 12 years of getting warnings from people that there was great concern about the Oroville Dam, just being destroyed naturally, and that the eventually the spillway would give way and possibly flood over, hundreds of thousands of people out of their homes and farms and ranches and communities. I think it's absolutely absurd, Millie, that my governor, Jerry Brown, has been so complicit, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger before Jerry Brown, so complicit to the warnings that people have been, sharing. Even environmental groups who are in disfavor of dams, especially in the 21st century, they'd like to see all dams destroyed. Even the environmental groups were forewarning, obviously cared enough about people, including the environment, to say, hey, you need to start looking at this dam. But they didn't, Millie. And now you're looking at people who, moving forward, are going to be concerned about their health and safety living below these dams. All the way down to Sacramento, there's potential, harm that could be done if this dam, Oroville Dam, isn't taken care of.
So do you think that, this dam failure is being used as sort of a Hegelian dialectic, a problem reaction solution to get Californians to then demand the removal of all of these dams?
Well, I do think that I absolutely know, not I think, I know that in the 21st century, under the United Nations Sustainable Development, the agenda is 100% to remove dams or destroy them. And where my parents' cattle ranch in Siskiyou County is, we have been fighting for the last 15 years just solidly to try and preserve 4 clean, green, renewable energy dams that Jerry Brown, California's governor, who obviously did not take care of the Oroville Dam to the point where people had to evacuate by hundreds of thousands. Jerry Brown said personally in a meeting last year about the Klamath River dams that it's about time that we start undoing what the mistakes that man had done in the past, and he's referring to destroying dams. So we in Siskiyou County have been fighting mad, fighting hard to preserve our dam system, because you know what, Millie? People need water. We need stored water. We need it. We need storage lakes and hydroelectric dams for inexpensive energy, for reliable water, for recreation, for irrigation, for flood control, drought control, fire suppression, all these benefits that dams and hydroelectric dams provide, especially to a state that is known throughout the world to be the breadbasket of the nation. This is why California's economy was so extraordinary at one point, to the point where we were the 5th largest economy in the world. Why? Because we were able to take water from the north part of the state and divert it through a series of water systems, including hydroelectric dams, including storage lakes, all the way down to, into the San Joaquin Valley, which is where we get enormous amounts of food to feed enormous amounts of people in the United States. But you're seeing the destruction, in my opinion, of rural America, because we have a government that not only mismanages our natural resources, but is abusing the people.
Wow. So would you say that these government officials are purposefully neglecting these dams so that they can just justify removing them? And does this play into Agenda 21? Because I know you speak on that a little bit about how they're trying to get people out of these cattle ranching areas. And can you tell a little bit of the personal experience that you have experienced being a cattle rancher in California, one of the most liberal democratic states out there?
Well, we didn't used to be all, so liberal and environmental, but we always took care of our land here. And, that's one of the neat things about being in the farming and ranching industry is if we don't take care of our land, if we don't have clean water and clean air, Why would we destroy our own livelihood? Why would we destroy the land that we love to go out and take care of, and all the animals on that land, and the wildlife that ranches and farms attract? If we were so bad, we would have, quit a long time ago. But yes, Millie, in fact, all this radical environmentalism and to remove dams, uh, Bruce Babbitt, who was under Clinton, the Department of Interior Secretary, said in 2012, so 5 years ago, that under the Obama administration, they had finally gotten the funding, the finances that they had needed for years and years and years to destroy the Elwha dams. The Elwha dams are in the state of Washington in Olympic Park. There has been an agenda for a long time to rewild Olympic Park. Those are their terms, rewild. So who's theirs? People, radical environmentalists, people who believe that human beings are just so bad to planet Earth that we should be forced into stack and pack housing, mega cities like the One Bay Area plan in San Francisco. So what Bruce Babbitt had said about the Elwha dams, that they got the funding to destroy them. By the way, behind those dams, just like behind the Klamath River dams and the Oroville Dam, is just this ecosystem where birds and fish and people and all these things come together to enjoy the water, to live, to survive from that water. Well, the Elwha dams, when they were destroyed, sent, I don't know how many cubic feet of pollutants and sediments out to the ocean. But behind that destruction, so were these lakes where thousands of birds and different species and, this whole biodiversity existed until they destroyed those dams. That's the same thing that's going to happen on the Klamath River dams, that Jerry Brown, the federal government, under the Obama administration, Arnold Schwarzenegger, my former governor, who was supposedly a conservative, people in Portland, environmental groups in Portland, all the way to Washington, D.C. In other words, people who don't even live in and among these dams want these dams destroyed. And what do? They breach them. So it's like punching a hole in the dam. They don't remove them, guys. It's destruction. It's punching a hole, and then the force of the water behind all these series of dams will then forcefully break down those dams and send pollutants all the way out to sea. In this case, in the Klamath River, which is also in Northern California. So not only do you have the Oroville Dam situation going on, farmland, rural America, same thing up in Siskiyou County with these Klamath River dams, which is once these dams are breached, Millie, 20 million cubic yards of pollutants will sludge its way for 60 plus some odd years out to the ocean. So wow. Why do they want to destroy these dams? Because they say a coho salmon is more important, more valuable than having water 365 days a year, irrigation, flood control, drought control, fire suppression. They'd rather save and spend millions on a coho salmon that I could go right down to my Whole Foods right now and buy for $8.99 a pound. So this agenda is about nature first, environment first, fish and frogs first over people.
Well, that's a great point you made, Debbie, and how you're talking about how they are, selling these salmon, and yet these are supposed to be endangered species or protected species, yet they're selling them yourself. And these are environmentalists that are talking about how, they're going to try and save the environment by bursting these dams. But what other damage is it going to do? I know you said it's going to spill pollutants, but, what other damage to animals and their natural living environment will happen?
Right. So the same very fish that they claim that they're going to save is the very same fish that, could be destroyed for the next 60 years as these toxins and pollutants, make their way 187 miles plus out to the ocean.
Wow, Debbie. Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio. I know that you have so much information and research on this, and we definitely are going to want to have you back again to tell us more about Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. So thank you so much for joining us in studio, Debbie. We really appreciate it. Is there any last things you'd like to share for a second?
Yeah, Bruce Babbitt said over 75,000 dams he'd like to consider for destruction. That there are 75,000 more dams to consider for destruction. That's our water, guys. That's our food. That's our livelihood. That's our recreation. That's our environment. Scary stuff.
All right. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you.
Did you know that only 6 corporations control 90% of what millions of Americans see, hear, and read every single day? It's the illusion of choice. Think about it. The mainstream media is owned by only a handful of megacorporations with vested interests. But on the other hand, the internet is an interconnected network of billions of sources. So you can research information for yourself from multiple sources, or you can blindly accept what you hear or read in the mainstream media, never questioning what you are being told. This gives you a false sense of reality. I mean, do you actually know what you think you know? Or have you been programmed to accept someone else's version of events? Think about it. This is Darren McBreen, and I want you to break the matrix at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv and listen to The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on your mind.